And welcome back to another episode of The Dark Room, where two blind cinephiles illuminate the sighted. I'm Lee Pugsley.
I'm Alex Howard.
And this is a podcast hosted by two legally blind guys for film lovers of all abilities. We are so excited to be back with you for a new, fresh year. We are in 2026, and it's going to be a great year. We hope you all had a very happy holiday season, however you chose to spend the holidays. And Alex, why don't you kick us off with what we're going to do today?
Today is one of our favorite episodes that we do every year. It's our most anticipated movies of 2026. So this episode is all about potential and what we think could be good and what we think couldn't be good. Obviously, throughout the year, there are always surprises. I find that usually my top 10 most anticipated, most of those do not end up on my top 10 favorite films of the year. But it's still so exciting to talk about potential and what exciting movies are coming out this year.
Absolutely agree. And looking at the film slate of movies we have this year, it looks very exciting. There's a lot of promise, as there is every year. And it's always interesting to see how things shape up. And as we go into our top 10 list, just keep in mind that these are the films that we are most excited for. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're predicting which films are going to be in the Best Picture lineup for the Oscars or which ones are going to be the most prestigious. But these are ones that just really build anticipation for us for whatever reason that may be.
Yeah, so these are our personal most anticipated lists. We would love to hear yours if you want to email us. Our email is darkroomfilmcast@gmail.com. That is darkroomfilmcast@gmail.com.
Definitely. I do want to reiterate that we love hearing from our community, so please share your list with us as well. And Alex, to kick us off, I know that we usually start with some honorable mentions. So do you have any honorable mentions for most anticipated of 2026?
So I know with our top 10s, honorable mentions are cheating a little bit, I guess, but I do have 6 honorable mentions. We're just going to run through them really fast. This is in no particular order. Supergirl is an honorable mention for obvious reasons. David Fincher's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood spinoff that Tarantino wrote and David Fincher's directing is in my honorable mentions. Jumanji 3 is a guilty pleasure that is in my honorable mentions. I love the first two. Zach Cregger's Resident Evil, which I've never seen a Resident Evil movie, but it's Zach Cregger and what he did with weapons. I am very excited to see what he does with that franchise. Michael is in my honorable mentions, which I will get into why that's an honorable mention. I'm sure it's in Lee's top 10. Spider-Man Brand New Day is in my honorable mentions because this year is so stacked. Somehow a Spider-Man movie is only in my honorable mentions. And my last honorable mention is The Social Reckoning, which is a sequel to The Social Network.
Awesome. All of those movies are really solid choices. Some of them I was debating putting into my top 10 or honorable mentions and almost made the cut. But there are a few of those that will appear in my top 10 list, so I will reserve my comments on those. But going into my honorable mentions, one of the movies that we do have in common is The Adventures of Cliff Booth, the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood sequel or spinoff or whatever you want to call it. I really loved Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, loved Quentin Tarantino's direction, and also loved Brad Pitt's character. So I'm really excited that we get a spinoff of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and really looking forward to seeing what this team is going to do with it and where they're going to take this story. Other honorable mentions that made my list were, in no particular order once again, Scandalous, a movie directed by Coleman Domingo, starring Sydney Sweeney and David Johnson from The Long Walk, about Sammy Davis Jr., the singer from the 1950s and 60s, and his love affair with film star Kim Novak. Next movie is Artificial, directed by Luca Guadagnino. It's supposedly a comedy film that takes place in 2023 around the time of OpenAI, when CEO Sam Altman got fired and rehired in 3 days. And it has a great cast. It's Cooper Hoffman, Andrew Garfield, Cooper Koch from the Menendez brothers. He played Eric Menendez. And so I just really like that cast, and I'm excited to see what Luca is going to do with the comedy. Then I have Werewolf, directed by Robert Eggers, starring Lily Depp and Aaron Taylor Johnson. You know, it's always fun to have a really good werewolf story, and I like what Robert Eggers has done with all of his other movies, and usually they've made my top 10 list, so we'll see if this one can move from honorable mention status into top 10. And rounding out my honorable mentions is the movie Madden, directed by David O. Russell. We haven't seen anything from him in a while, and it's about John Madden, the NBA coach who left the NBA and started the Madden football video games. and it stars Nicolas Cage and Christian Bale. So I'm very excited to see what he's going to do with that.
So, as always, another reason I love doing this episode is that Lee always brings movies to the table that I didn't even know were coming out. So, all of those sound awesome. I would have definitely put those in my honorable mentions if I had known about them. Werewolf is one that I totally forgot about, that I knew was coming that would have been in there. And Madden, I think also, neither of us are big football people. I think he's also a prominent announcer in the NFL. But I think they just released the first image from that and it looks great. Nicolas Cage looks great as John Madden.
100%.
So, Lee, before we get into our top 10, we like to play this little game. How many do you think we will have in common in our top 10?
This one is going to be interesting. I kind of wavered back and forth on it, but I think that we will have four movies in common this year. What's
Okay.
your guess? What's your guess?
I think we're going to have five.
Okay, I think that's very possible. I was kind of going back and forth between four or five, so let's give it a go and see what we got. Why don't you kick us off with your number 10?
So my number 10 is Scream 7. So I know Scream 7 has a lot of controversy around it. It comes out in February. They fired Melissa Barrera. Jenna Ortega quit, so they kind of had to rewrite the whole thing. And they got Kevin Williamson, who wrote the original Scream. He's writing this one and directing it. So that gives me hope. And also Matthew Lillard is back. They seem to bring back a lot of the original cast. But at the same time, since it was a rewrite and they had to reorganize all their thoughts, it makes me a little nervous, which is why it's number 10. But at the same time, it's a Scream movie, and I love the Scream franchise. So this can't not be in my top 10 most anticipated of the year.
I always have a lot of fun with the Scream movies. I know they're a little cheesy, arguably, but there's just something that's very, I don't know, endearing or enjoyable about them. And I do like the fact that Kevin Williamson is coming back and Matthew Lillard's coming back. Similar to you, I always pause a bit when they say that there's rewrites that were being done. So jury's out on this one, but I will definitely be watching this in theater, probably opening weekend.
That's awesome. And I'm actually going to change my number. I think we're going to have six in common. So we'll see what happens. What is your number 10, though?
My number 10 is a movie directed by Martin McDonagh called Wild Horse 9, and it stars Sam Rockwell and John Malkovich, which is a very stacked cast right there. And it takes place in Santiago, Chile in 1973, and it centers on the relationship between two CEI operatives and testing their trust. What I really like about Martin McDonagh films is I think that he's a very good scriptwriter based on In Bruges, Banshees of Inisherin, Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, and everything that I've seen from him, as well as his theater credits too. I think he does characters and relationships really well. It's always very interesting to see the dynamics that he brings to the table and the way that he builds those relationships. So I'm always here for a good Martin McDonagh film.
That's so crazy. I didn't even know that one was coming out once again. So that's very exciting. I love In Bruges. That's probably my favorite of his, but any one of his films is very dialogue driven. His movies are always really great.
Yeah, they really are. And obviously, there's some that I prefer over others, but once again, he just knows how to write characters very well. So, moving on, what's your number 9?
My number 9 is Toy Story 5. So I know everyone, every time there's a Toy Story movie, people are like, oh, they're gonna ruin it, and they haven't ruined it yet. So I feel like, obviously one is a classic, two is one of the highest rated movies on Rotten Tomatoes, three is a lot of people's favorite Pixar movie. I know Lee can go against that, but we will get to that later. Three is one of my favorite Pixar movies. Four was good. I liked four. I didn't love four, but it was good. And five, I'm very excited for it because the villain is a tablet, and I think it's very relevant. It's really cool that they're tackling the screen versus toys thing, and so I'm very excited to see what they do with Toy Story 5.
I figured that this movie was going to make your list, and I totally support that. As we've talked previously, I do have issues with Toy Story 3 and Toy Story 4, which we'll save for a hot takes episode, and we can dive more into that at some point in time. But I am curious to see what they're going to do with the villain being a tablet and how they're going to approach that. I do think it plays to modern day sensibilities. And while this isn't my most anticipated by any stretch of the imagination, I will be intrigued and I will probably see it in theaters because You got to be part of those cultural conversations.
So what is your number nine?
My number nine is a movie called Tony, which is directed by Blackberry director Matt Johnson, which I feel like you would appreciate since I know that you were a huge fan of that movie. And it stars Dominic Sessa, who played the teenage kid in The Holdovers. I've been a big fan of him ever since I saw him in that movie. And this is an Anthony Bourdain biopic that takes place in the 1970s when Anthony Bourdain is young. Really curious to see what Matt Johnson does with this and to see if he carries any of the sensibilities over from what he did with Blackberry.
And see, this would have been in my top 10, or at least in my honorable mentions if I had known about it. That sounds super interesting, especially Anthony Bourdain, the director of Blackberry. I am so sold on this movie.
Nice. I figured that you would really appreciate this one, and I was so excited to share this with you because I was like, Alex probably doesn't know about this movie, but I know how much you loved Blackberry and were championing that movie the whole season when it came out.
Yeah, and I know that's interesting that he has that movie coming out because I know he also has one that if my brother's listening to this, he would kill me that I can't remember the title. It's like a band. It's like, oh, it's like Nirvana, the band, the movie or something. I think that's the title. And Matt Johnson also had a part in that movie, and that comes out in February. So it's interesting he has two movies coming out.
Oh, I just heard about that movie and it looks fascinating. I'm so intrigued by that movie.
Yeah, these movies that we're talking about are ideally big enough that they should get audio description. We are 90% sure that these movies will get AD. But some of these smaller ones, depending on the distributor, they may not. But fingers crossed that all of the movies we discussed today will have audio description.
Yes, indeed. And what's your number eight?
So my number eight is called Flowervale Street. Flowervale Street is directed by David Robert Mitchell, who directed It Follows, which is one of my favorite all-time horror movies. Not much is known about this. The only reason I know about this is because I was reading online about some people that saw a test screening of it, and it sounds like it's right up my alley. I am not going to watch the trailer when it comes out. I'm trying to avoid most details, but from what I hear, it's sci-fi. David Robert Mitchell, I am totally in on this.
That movie was so close to making my honorable mentions, and at one point in time was in my top 10 most anticipated. I went back and forth on it. I am really excited to see this movie as well, and I do love the fact that they haven't given us a whole lot of information. Also, a really good cast as well.
It does have a great cast. I think Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor are starring in this.
Yeah, and those are actors that if they're in a movie, I'm most likely going to see it regardless of what it is, just because their names sell me. I like both of those actors a lot.
Anne Hathaway is going to have a huge year. I have a feeling two more of her movies are going to be in your top 10, and one more of hers is going to be in mine. So, what is your number eight?
My number eight is one that I can guarantee is on your top 10 list, and it's Project Hail Mary. I'm really excited for this movie. I know that it's based on a book from the same author as The Martian. I really liked The Martian, and I love the fact that this is Ryan Gosling and Lord and Miller. So I don't really see how this movie can go wrong. I say that with my fingers crossed because, as we know, there have been movies that we've had high anticipation for that don't deliver. But this one has everything on paper that it needs to succeed and to really be a banger.
Do you want me to go into this now, or do you want me to
Yeah,
wait?
go for it.
So, Project Hail Mary is my number one. I read the book. I'm obsessed with the book. The book's one of my favorite books of all time. It's so good. And Ryan Gosling's perfect casting. I'm especially excited for the little creature that will be in the movie as well. He melts my heart in the book, and they announced a Lego set of this movie that I'm so excited for. I hope they do a popcorn bucket. I don't know that they will because it's not big enough, but I am so excited for this movie. So yes, and Project Hail Mary is my number one most anticipated of the year.
That's awesome. And I knew that it was going to be high on your list. You're actually the one that turned me on to this movie and put it on my radar. Because I remember last year when you were reading the book, just how much you loved it, and your excitement has only continued to grow since then. So, for your sake, and also for the sake of the movie going audiences out there, I really hope that it doesn't disappoint and that it's everything that you imagined it to be when you were reading the book.
Yeah, and I highly encourage you guys have till March. So it's a quick read because it's an intense book. So you'll fly through it. It's a page turner for sure. But I highly encourage anyone listening, if you're interested, to read Project Hail Mary before the movie. Especially if you're blind, the audiobook is, I mean, for anyone, but the audiobook is great. There's a character that communicates with like music and tones. And so the audiobook like plays the music that it's saying as opposed to just reading the musical notes.
I love that so much, and I will definitely be checking out this book before March. So moving on, then, what's your number seven?
So my number seven is another requirement. It's The Mandalorian and Grogu. I love The Mandalorian, not so much season three, but I love season one and two of The Mandalorian, and I love Star Wars. So if there's a Star Wars movie coming out, it's going to be in my top 10. And I think it says something about how packed the year is that The Mandalorian and Grogu is only number seven on my list.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting because I'll be honest, the trailer for this movie hasn't sold me on it. It looks more like an extended TV episode, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I just need to see a little bit more to really be sold on it. Obviously, I am going to see it and I'm very interested. I do like Mandalorian and Grogu, the characters. And yeah, all I can say is I'm curious, but I need a little bit more to really whet my appetite and get me excited about it. I figured this would make your list, though, knowing what a big Star Wars fan you are.
Yeah, if it's an extended TV episode, I'm actually totally fine with that because some of my favorite episodes of The Mandalorian are very isolated. It's kind of like a space adventure doing this, and it doesn't have an impact on the overall plot. But it's just like, they go to a snow planet and get into trouble, and I love those kind of things. So if the movie can do that, I'm totally cool with that. Also, when I saw Avatar and they had the little Grogu guy, he puts on the 3D glasses, I was like, oh my God, this is so cute. And so I'm like, right when that happened, I was like, I think I'm in for this movie.
Totally makes sense. And I do think the production design is going to be really well done. I'm excited to hear the score. So there's definitely parts of this movie that I am anticipating.
So what is your number seven, Lee?
My number seven is one that was on your honorable mentions list, and that's The Social Reckoning. I mean, I'm always a sucker for Aaron Sorkin direction and dialogue. I know that some people feel like his dialogue is a little heightened and not as believable in the way that people talk. Fully a valid criticism, but his dialogue works so well for me, and just the banter back and forth, the boom, 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 it just flows so well for me every time, and I can always be on board for an Aaron Sorkin script. Also, it has such a good cast: Mikey Madison, Jeremy Allen White, and Jeremy Strong. And I'm just really curious to see what they're going to do with this next chapter with Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, this was right on the cusp. This was my in my top 10 for a bit, and then I put Scream 7 in there. But yeah, I'm very excited for this. Unlike you, I'm not a big fan of Aaron Sorkin direction. There's some of his writing that I like The Social Network and some other ones, but for me, sometimes his dialogue comes off like people are going through the conversation for the second time. Like they're anticipating what the next person's saying, and it's not very believable for me. But I know in some it is like a heightened, art form. I'm glad it works for you. I'm hoping it's kind of the speed of Social Network and not so much like Trial of the Chicago Seven or something. But as a great cast, I love Jeremy Strong, I love Mikey Madison, Jeremy Allen White. So yeah, I'm also very excited for this movie.
I totally understand where you're coming from about the dialogue, and probably due to my theatrical background, that's why that dialogue works for me, because oftentimes on stage dialogue can be heightened a little bit as well, so maybe I'm just like used to that, but totally understand where you're coming from, makes a lot of sense, and validate that for sure. Yeah, so what's your number six?
My number six is Steven Spielberg's Disclosure Day. They just released the trailer for this. The title wasn't even known until like last week or 2 weeks ago. So for a while, I had in this untitled Steven Spielberg UFO movie. But yes, it is called Disclosure Day. It stars Emily Blunt, and it's just Steven Spielberg returning to sci-fi, returning to aliens. Like, how can you not have it in your top 10?
I couldn't agree more, and Disclosure Day is actually, spoiler, my number five. For all the same reasons that you mentioned, I mean, Emily Blunt and Josh O'Connor, that's a great cast right there. The trailer looks intriguing, and I love the fact that it didn't really tell us much about it. Steven Spielberg is always best when he's doing that kind of blockbustery thing, which I feel like this movie is gonna be more of. And Minority Report, E.T., he does sci-fi so well. So, like you said, back to form, I think is a great way to describe it. Really looking forward to this movie.
So that's two we have in common so far. So what's your number six?
My number six is Wuthering Heights, which is based on a novel by Emily Bronte. There have been several adaptations of this already. I want to say this is the fourth film adaptation of the story. I have never read the book, but I like period romance movies. I like Emerald Fennell based on Promising Young Woman and Saltburn. I think that she really knows how to create very engaging films. And I love the cast, Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie. So anytime she does a movie, it's always going to be on my list. Really curious to see what this is going to be. And I know that in the past, there's been criticisms over adaptations not being able to fully tell the story in the way they think it should be done. So I think if anyone can do it, Emerald Fennell is the one to really deliver on this.
Funny enough, when I'm making these lists, I there are certain directors I look up to see if they have a movie coming out next year. And Emerald Fennell was one that I looked up and I saw that she's doing Wuthering Heights, and I'm like, okay, it's not in my top 10. It's not my most anticipated, but I love her as a director because Promising Young Woman was my favorite movie of the year that came out. So I am also very curious and very excited to see how this movie turns out. I have not read the book. I don't know much about the story, which is why it's not in my top 10, but I'm also excited to check it out.
And moving on, then, what's your number five?
So my number five, these top five are all like super excited. They're very close to one another. My number five is Clayface. I mean, it's the DC universe and it's a horror movie. Not only that, it's a body horror movie written by Mike Flanagan. Like you can't get any more my brand than that. I'm so excited to see what they do with Clayface, to see the horror elements, and to see what Mike Flanagan's script can bring into the DCU. I love that James Gunn's kind of letting other genres be a part of the DCU rather than just an action movie.
That's awesome. And I knew this was going to be on your list based on the DCU and also on Mike Flanagan, because I know you're such a big fan of Mike Flanagan, which, because of you, I think that my affection for him has grown as well.
And also like the body horror element. Like I mean, I've waxed poetic about the substance, but like we could get a real juicy audio description script with Clayface, depending on how far they go with the body horror.
I'm super excited for the audio description track for this, and I hope that they just go for it too.
Definitely. So what's your number five, Lee?
My number five is Disclosure Day, which we've already talked
Okay.
about. So I'll throw it back to you. What's your number four?
So I feel like these four we're gonna have in common, I'm assuming. My number four is The Odyssey, which does seem low. I know it's on a lot of film fans' number one most anticipated. Christopher Nolan, the Oppenheimer, I thought it was good. It wasn't my favorite of the year. Same with Dunkirk. So like Christopher Nolan, he's always great, but he's hit or miss on whether it's my favorite film of the year, top 10 or whatever. The Odyssey, I'm very excited for. Obviously, it's a classic novel. And I love that Christopher Nolan is tackling something he hasn't done before, which is like a medieval period piece. And it's like polar opposite of Oppenheimer and Batman and all that. So I'm very interested to see how he tackles the genre, this classic source material. I'm sure it's going to be epic beyond epic. And this is, I mean, the only movie on my list that the tickets have already gone on sale, which is crazy. I think another reason why it's only number four is, 70 millimeter is going to be a big selling point for this movie. This is the first movie ever shot entirely in IMAX, but 70 millimeter, it does not have AD. So, I mean, Lee and I can't speak for Lee, but I will at least be going on digital with audio description, probably in Dolby. But yeah, so The Odyssey is my number four.
I will also be going on digital for this movie because I feel like this one seems like a movie that's going to have a lot of action or non-dialogue parts, and I think the audio description is going to be key for it. I really wish that 70 millimeter did have AD, and hopefully we'll get there at some point in time. That being said, a full disclosure, The Odyssey is my number one most anticipated film of the year. I'm super excited for this movie. Everything that I've seen from it, the short glimpses and sneak peeks that we've been getting, have only excited me more. I read the Odyssey and the Iliad in high school, was a big fan of both of them, just loved the epic nature of the stories and the themes that it conveys. And if anyone can do justice to the story, it's Christopher Nolan. I think that he's proven himself to be a master filmmaker. Obviously, there's some films that I like more than others, as you can reference our Christopher Nolan podcast episode. But Yeah, I don't know, it just has all the elements of a big blockbuster film, but also a film that's going to be very high quality and not cheaply done. So I'm here for it. I'll be there opening day or preview day. I haven't bought my tickets yet because a year in advance was just a little too soon for me to do that. But I will definitely be going to the first showing in digital that I'm able to get to.
And I think the only tickets that have gone on sale are the film 70 millimeter shows. But this is also one of the other movies that Anne Hathaway is in.
That is very true. And I didn't even think about that when I was putting this on my list, but Anne Hathaway is always an added bonus that's going to up any movie for me in my excitement to see it.
Oh,
Go.
Tom Holland is also going to have a massive month because he has The Odyssey, and then 2 weeks later, Spider-Man comes out. So,
Yeah, he's going to be like $1 billion star at that point in time. And I do predict that this movie is going to make over $1 billion, The Odyssey. And I would also predict that for Spider Man Brand New Day as well.
oh, that's so interesting. Yeah, because I think Oppenheimer got to like 900 something, and that wasn't based on, oh, I get it was based on a book, but not a book like The Odyssey. I read the Iliad in high school. I don't remember if I read the Odyssey or not, but definitely, I mean, you couldn't pick a more perfect novel for Christopher Nolan to adapt.
Absolutely.
So that is three in common for us so far. What is your number four, Lee?
My number four was a movie that was on your honorable mentions list, which is Michael. Obviously, Michael Jackson can be controversial in his personal life. However, anyone feels about that, I fully respect that. I'm just really curious, though, to see what they're going to do with this story. I know that it was supposed to come out last year, then they had to do a bunch of reshoots. That does make me a little nervous because I know they had to change a lot of things. But Michael Jackson is the king of pop for a reason. His music, his dances, what he's given us has influenced our culture in so many ways, musically and even within choreography. So I've been anticipating this movie for so long. I believe it was actually on my top 10 most anticipated list of 2025. So now it's moved to top 10 most anticipated of 2026. And yeah, I can't wait for this movie. I'm super excited.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm very excited as well. It wasn't my top 10 most anticipated of 2025, but then with all the reshoots, I bumped it down to honorable mentions. I think the thing that makes me nervous about this is so basically they shot a huge movie and then they were going to split it into two movies. And then for some reason, no one read the court documents that said they can't address the lawsuit in any future Michael Jackson biopics. And that was the crux of the plot of supposedly the rumor is the crux of the plot of the second movie was the lawsuits. So they had to completely retool what they're doing and, kind of rearrange things. And so, didn't seem like it was going to affect the first movie, but clearly it did because they pushed it a year. So I'm curious to see if they can still stick the landing, having to rewrite the ending pretty much.
And they had to significantly change a lot of things. So I'm optimistic that they were able to do it, but I'm also prepared to be a little disappointed.
Yeah.
I'm also very curious to see the performance of Michael Jackson's nephew and to see how he embodies Michael. From the trailer that we had, I think he's going to do a really good job.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, Antoine Fuqua is directing, so that's a big thing too. And I think they said that if this one does well, they will finish the reshoots for the second movie. I don't know how true that is. That's the rumor. But yeah, I'm very curious and excited to see how this one turns out as well. Because it's so hard to imitate Michael Jackson. And so, like you said, I'm very curious to see how his nephew pulls it off and, makes it believable.
And if they decide not to do part two, I hope that they've wrapped up part one enough that it feels like a complete movie. It's not just like a big cliffhanger and we're like, okay, well, we're not getting anything more. So that movie kind of seems pointless now.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
All right, moving on. What is your number three?
Ooh, so my number three is Avengers Doomsday. I know the MCU has not been firing on all cylinders lately, but I mean, it's pretty hard to mess up an Avengers movie. And especially when you bring back the Russo brothers, who have a flawless track record with Marvel. Without Marvel, it's a different story. But with Marvel, I mean, they did Winter Soldier, they did Civil War, they did both of Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. They're bringing back Chris Evans, they're bringing back Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom, they're bringing back Chris Hemsworth. So it's, I mean, it's going to be epic. They've already released two trailers so far. Supposedly there's going to be another X-Men trailer, and then they're going to do their main trailer for the fourth week of Avatar. But I am so excited for this. I mean, I'm a sucker for the MCU, so I will be there day one to watch Avengers Doomsday.
I knew this was going to be on your top 10 list. I knew it was probably going to be in the top three, and that makes a lot of sense. I wish I was more excited for this movie right now. I think just over the years since Endgame, Marvel's taken a little bit of a dip. I will give Marvel credit where it's due. Last year, when we got Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts, I thought both of those movies were headed in the right direction and gave me hope for the future. But I don't know. I feel like this movie may not be as big and epic as Avengers Infinity War Endgame, which might be unfair to put that expectation on it. Maybe I just need to see another trailer or something to really get on board with it. I'm interested, but I can't necessarily say that I've reached the level of hype yet.
Yeah, I think, I mean, considering they're bringing in the X-Men from the Fox universe and just it's going to be so epic. And I just, the epicness and the cast is great, but can they stick the story is the question.
Exactly. And, to be clear, I want it to be good. I want it to succeed. I want to be able to be fully on board with this. And at the end of the year, when we're talking about our top 10 films of 2026, I want to be like, yeah, that was awesome. And that totally stuck the landing. And I can't believe that it was that good.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for, but I also will temper my expectations until we see more.
Yeah. And it's also coming out at this point, coming out the same day as another huge movie, which I'm sure we will talk about in just a minute. Um, so yeah, what is your number three, Lee?
My number three is one that maybe you weren't anticipating being on my list, but it's The Hunger Games: Sunrise on the Reaping. I just read this book in 2025 and I loved it. It's probably my favorite Hunger Games book out of any of the books that have been written so far. So when I saw the trailer in November, I was super excited for it. It was a really good teaser and really whet my appetite for what's to come. I want this movie to be good. I really loved Ballad of Songbird and Snake. And so I think this movie has potential to be really good because it's Francis Lawrence again who did Catching Fire. And in my opinion, that's the best directed Hunger Games film. So, based on my love of the source material, I guess, it really sprung up in my list of most anticipated films.
So yeah, I think I also heard that Jennifer Lawrence and Josh Hutcherson are coming back, which is huge for the franchise because I never thought Jennifer Lawrence was going to come back.
Are they? I did not know that was going to happen. And I guess I can kind of see where they would fit into the story, but that makes me even more excited for this movie.
I read The Hunger Games, I read part of Catching Fire, and then I got really annoyed with Katniss, so I stopped. But I do need to watch the Hunger Games movies, the four original ones, and probably rewatch the last one as well, before this one. I need to catch up on all that. But that's great that you're so excited.
Yeah, I didn't expect to be as excited about this movie as I am now, but it just, like I said, snuck up on me a little bit. So, what is your number two? Actually, I think I have a guess.
Okay, I think we have the same number two.
I think you're right. So, I would say Dune Part 3, correct?
Yes, Doom Part 3 is definitely my number two, yeah.
Also, my number two. So, we can just openly dialogue about this now.
So Denis Villeneuve obviously took two movies to direct the first Dune book, which I have not read. I know Lee has read. The second one was amazing. The first one was also good, but the second one blew my mind. It's one of the best, I think, sci-fi movies of all time. I absolutely love it. I love the popcorn bucket too. But the movie itself is amazing. And the way it ended was so against all tropes and just everything that you typically get from a hero's journey, just flip the script complete opposite. So I'm very, very intrigued to see what they're going to do with the third one, if they're going to stay the course with this character and keep him on this path that he's on. We are trying to be vague in case you haven't seen Doom Part 2. But I really hope they just go all in on the path that he's on because I love that they went the opposite of the hero's journey.
Also, if you haven't seen Dune Part 2, you should watch it like right now. Stop listening to this podcast, go put it on, and then you can come back and finish this.
With audio description, because the audio description is amazing for Doom Part 2.
So good. And to comment on what you were saying, I am also very curious to see where they're going to take this journey in Doom Part 3. I know it's based on the book Doom Messiah, which I haven't read yet, but I will read it before the movie comes out. And I know that there's a time jump, and that's really all I know about it. But I heard that it gets a little weird, which for you, Alex, that might work really well. I'm not sure what I'm going to think of it, but I'll reserve judgment until I read the book and watch the movie.
I'm actually fairly confident that he's gonna keep it not too weird. Because I think, I mean, I haven't read the first Dune, but I know he did change some things in the first Dune book in these two movies. So I feel like Denny will keep the weird stuff that people don't like in the book out of it. I mean, like I said, I don't know, but just guessing, I think he'll keep it a little grounded.
It's likely because he did do a very good job of adapting the first book, and the things that he changed, I was okay with, and I understood why he made those changes. Also, Denny and Timothy Chalamet and everyone that's on the Dune team has earned my trust. So I have absolutely no reason to doubt that they're not going to deliver.
Oh yeah, God, I remember watching Doom Part 2 in the theater and just like the epicness and the score and it's like letting it wash over you. And I'm so excited to do that again for Doom Part 3. And I really hope he can, because this is uncharted territory. I mean, David Lynch did the first Dune adaptation, but he did not do Dune Messiah. So this is the first screen adaptation of that, and I'm super excited to see what he does with it.
Same. And talking about all this Dune stuff makes me want to go watch both of the movies again.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah. No, me too. But yeah, so that's our number two. And obviously my number one was Project Hail Mary. And remind the people, what was your number one?
My number one is The Odyssey.
Awesome. This is going to be such a great year in film. I think it'll be equally a great year in audio description because a lot of these movies have potential to have fantastic audio description tracks.
Definitely. It's always so funny too because every year I'm like, are there actually going to be enough films for me to fill out a top 10 most anticipated list? And once I really dive into it, I realize there's a bunch of choices and it's always hard to narrow it down at the end.
Yeah, and like we mentioned before, Dune and Avengers at this point of this recording are coming out the same day. So and it's weird because that's the same audience. Like for Barbenheimer, Barbie and Oppenheimer, those are two completely different audiences. And people kind of jumped on the train and like, the wives wanted to see Barbie, the husbands wanted to see Oppenheimer, and they just went together and saw both, and it worked out. But Avengers and Dune, I think they're gonna eat each other's audience. And by the end of the year, I think Dune's gonna move. I think Dune's gonna move up, or I really hope they don't get pushed to 2027, but I think they are gonna move up rather than forward.
It will be really interesting to see what happens with that because Warner was pretty firm that they weren't changing their date as of now.
Yeah.
I think that if both movies stay on the same date, I think that's doing both of them a disservice in their box office.
Yeah, I mean, I think people will see both, but opening weekend will be lower for one or the other. I mean,
Yep.
yeah, if you do them head to head, I think Avengers will come out on top just because it's more wide appeal than Dune. It's less dense. But yeah, I really think Dune should move maybe to Thanksgiving or something.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what's going to happen with that. I mean, if I had to choose, I would probably go see Dune first. I'm sure that you would probably see Doomsday.
I'm more interested in Dune, obviously, because it's higher, but I'd be afraid of Doomsday spoilers, so I would probably see Doomsday first.
I think the other thing that's going to be challenging is let's say you're someone, not a cinephile like us who sees everything all the time, but you're trying to decide you have a free weekend and you have time to see one movie. I feel like both of these movies are going to be 3 hours or close to it. So it's not like people are going to have time to just go watch two movies back to back and spend 6 hours of time plus trailers in a theater on a Saturday. So it really will force the average audience member to choose.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, they're going to be long movies. But it looks to be very exciting in 2026. They say next year Disney could have the most successful year since 2019. Or I think in 2019 they had like $4 or $5 billion movies because they had Toy Story 4, they had Star Wars, they had Avengers. So yeah, they say that this coming year, 2026, could be just as big for Disney as that year between The Mandalorian, Toy Story, Avengers, all that stuff.
I couldn't see that. And I think there's going to be a lot of potential for very big hits from a lot of different studios this year based on even talking through the list that we were just talking through.
Yeah, but like we said, we would love to hear your most anticipated movies, most anticipated audio description tracks, all of that. You can send us an email. Our email is darkroomfilmcast@gmail.com. That is darkroomfilmcast@gmail.com.
And you can also follow us on Instagram at Darkroom Filmcast and like and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Darkroom Filmcast as well.
And we'd like to thank Blind Can for helping us out with editing, and Matt Louderbach at All Senses Go for helping out with transcripts of this episode so that we can make our podcast more accessible to our friends in the deaf community.
And thank you guys so much for listening. As always, it's a pleasure to be on this journey with you. We're looking forward to an exciting 2026 with you. And with that, we will see you here next time on The Dark Room.
Yeah, Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.